In a few weeks, Battles of Legend Heroes Revenge is going to drop, and even though it is the off-season for Yu-Gi-Oh!, events will be starting up in just a few months, and this is one of the most anticipated sets that we've had in a while. There are tons of fantastic imports and new cards and reprints, and in today's video I want to focus solely on the top 10 most hyped, most anticipated reprints in this set. Of course, the set isn't quite out yet, so this is just stuff to sort of think about before the set comes out, and if you plan on buying any of these cards online, like you should, because singles is always the best way to go with Yu-Gi-Oh cards, definitely check out tcgplayer.com, specifically using my link in the description. If you want to get good deals and also help support me and the channel, definitely check out that link in the description whenever you're buying Yu-Gi-Oh cards, specifically the ones for sets like this, Battles of Legend Heroes Revenge. I'll be making a few more videos about this set closer to the release a few weeks from now, and I'll shout out that link once again, but definitely if you're thinking about it right now, just remember to use that link anytime you actually buy cards from TCG Player, because it does go right back into my channel. Anyway though, we have a ton to talk about in today's video, so let's not waste any more time and first start talking about these reprints in Battles of Legend Heroes Revenge. Now, what makes these cards so special? Well, in some cases they're rarity upgrades, in some cases they're reprints of expensive cards, and there's a lot of different options that you have depending on which type of player you are. This is an amazing set with a ton of hype. So many of these cards aren't even the only good reprints in the set, they're just some of the best ones that I could find. For example, at number 10 we have several Shaddolls monsters that are finally getting rarity upgrades. Shaddolls Falco, Hedgehog, and Skomata are only printed in common and rare, so to have a holographic print of them is awesome for Shaddolls players. We still don't have Shaddolls Dragon, and it's really weird because in this set they are reprinting Shaddolls Beast, which already has a holo reprint, but overall it's still cool to almost have the entire Shaddolls engine in holographic form for those Shaddolls players, or even those players that are using the Shaddolls engine. El Shaddolls Construct is still at 1 copy per deck right now, but I think especially looking at this set, it is very likely for that card to go to semi-limited or unlimited, and in that case these cards would be super hyped. But I think already, even with Construct at 1, people are just excited to finally get these cards in a non-common or rare form. During the Shaddolls deck's reign on the format, one of the other decks that was very popular was Necrons, and Necrons are also getting a rarity upgrade in this set in the form of Necrons Cycle. Now, this card has only been printed as a rare, and it's a very good and staple Necrons spell card, so it's really cool that it's finally getting that rarity upgrade. And actually, Necrons have seen minor success since a couple cards got off the ban list. We still have some cards that are restricted, but overall, the Necrons deck in combination with the new incantation monsters has actually seen some success at different YCSs, not quite making the top 32 finish, but usually ending right on the bubble, or at least making day 2. There is a huge dedicated fan base of Necrons players, and I think they will be very excited to finally have their hands on a holographic form of Necrons Cycle. And then we have sort of out of the blue, Subterra Guru is included in the set once again as a holographic card, because if I didn't mention it already, it's an entirely holographic set, and this is a pretty cool rarity upgrade. Subterra Guru is a pretty strong control deck, a lot of people like it, and a lot of the cards in that deck are max rarity already. They have holographic forms, except for the main monster card, Subterra Guru. More importantly though, when this card was released in the OCG, it was first printed as an ultra rare, so it's really cool that we finally have our own holographic form in the TCG. It's extremely likely that this will still stay a good rogue deck going forward, so it makes sense for Konami to finally reprint Guru in an upgraded rarity while the deck is still being played. And then we have cyber-stein, and this is a really exciting reprint. This card was recently unbanned, and a lot of players like myself said, well, I don't have any copies of this card. Who has this card? When was the last time this card was even reprinted? Well, this card was reprinted about 15 years ago, so if you wanted to get a version of this card for your collection to play at a tournament, you had to look at some pretty old singles, and that's really tough because when you look at cards that are that old, it's very difficult to find them in mint condition. However, I think it's a really fantastic idea when Konami finally unbanned some of those really old cards to actually put an updated version in a recent set so that people have access to the card without digging through their old shoe boxes full of commons and rares. Not only is this reprint awesome, but it is cool once again to have it in a holographic form. It's not just the prize card version that's like thousands of dollars. So overall, even though this card isn't seeing a ton of play, I think it was an excellent choice for this set. Summon Limit is an awesome card to include in this set. Yes, it is a rarity upgrade, and I know the card has technically seen a rarity upgrade with those old Duelist League promo cards that have the differently colored names, but overall it still didn't have a holographic version in the TCG, and it is a card that is being played still to this day. You see it in side decks of decks like Altergeist and sometimes Subterra Guru strategies. A lot of different stun decks want to play Summon Limit, and even though it sort of has gone down in popularity since about 4 months ago, it still is seeing play. It still is a very solid card, and it's just overall a very good trap card in a format where there aren't a lot of trap cards still surviving. We recently got Rivalry of Warlords and Goza Match reprinted in holographic form, so it makes sense for them to also reprint Summon Limit so people can actually have access to these cards not just as commons. And how can I make this video without talking about the Sky Strikers? Admittedly, we don't know how far Sky Strikers will last without getting hit on the ban list. I think it's very likely that these cards will get hit. However, if you need them for early regionals, probably before the next ban list happens, then this is a time to pick them up, because we have Engage getting reprinted, we have Widow Anchor getting reprinted, we have other cards getting reprinted, but mainly we're looking at Engage and Widow Anchor because those were the two most expensive cards to the strategy. Sky Striker has been one of the most consistently powerful decks for the past year. It's been played format after format after format after format, and it still is solid to this day. And it's also a pretty good splashable engine. Obviously not as good as a splashable engine now that Hornet Drones is limited, but it's still pretty good for a variety of decks out there. So a lot of people are looking to pick up their Sky Striker cards for cheap, and this is the way to do it. They are finally receiving their first reprint after only having one printing in that one sort of hidden arsenal type set a year ago. And I think it's really fair to say that a lot of people are hyped to pick up these cards for not hundreds of dollars a copy like Engage when it first came out. For a very, very long time, Artifact Sanctum was the most expensive artifact card. Yes, you had to play 3 copies of it, but also it didn't receive a lot of reprints. However, over the years, the card has been reprinted. It was actually reprinted in last year's Battles of Legend. One card that was not reprinted was Artifact Scythe, a card that was almost $10, $15 for a while when people were really playing artifacts. It's sort of funny how the tables have turned, but basically people kept reprinting Sanctum because it was so expensive back in the day and sort of forgot about Scythe. However, in Battles of Legend Heroes Revenge, it is getting its first real true reprint besides its unlimited print run, and that's really exciting for a lot of players that are trying to play the artifact engine, because I don't know the exact numbers, but you basically could buy a playset of Sanctums for almost the same price, if not less, than you could buy one artifact Scythe, and that just really didn't make a lot of sense. So it's cool to see Konami actually reprinting this card so that more players can have access to the artifact engine, including Scythe. A while ago, like months ago, Konami did their first announcement about this Battles of Legend, and with it they included a couple of the reprints that would be in the set. One of those cards was Sky Striker and Engage, but these last 3 cards were all part of that first initial introduction to this new Battles of Legend, and oh my gosh, were people hyped for these last 3 cards. So the last cards I'm talking about in today's video we've known about for a long time, and a lot of us have patiently been awaiting them, including the first one that we're going to talk about, which is Borel Sword Dragon. The Borel cards are extremely competitive. Borel Load Dragon saw a ton of play and is still seeing play. Borel Sword Dragon is sort of along the same lines. Borel Load Savage Dragon is good as well. I mean, I guess Borel Guard Dragon isn't so good, but most of them are extremely competitive, and Borel Sword Dragon was way too expensive for what it did. Don't get me wrong, it's a very powerful card, but this thing peaked at like $100, which is just insane for a one-of extra deck monster that not every deck is even playing. But that doesn't mean it's a bad card. It is a very, very strong card, just a little bit overpriced for most budget players, or maybe a lot of bit overpriced for a lot of budget players. And now this card finally has a reprint, and it's going to be so much easier to get for players on a tighter budget. I don't know how expensive this card will be because the set isn't out yet, but I would imagine it would not be $100. That would just be absolutely insane. If we look at like Borel Load Dragon, when it got its first reprint, it went from like $40 to $10, and I don't know if it'll be as dramatic with Borel Sword Dragon. We don't know the set ratios, how likely you are to pull it, but overall we know it's going to be a lot cheaper, and a lot more players are going to have access to this card. So if you haven't been able to pick up Borel Sword Dragon, it seems very, very likely that with the release of Battles of Legend Heroes Revenge, you will actually be able to get one copy for whatever deck you want to play it in without breaking the bank as much as you would have if you bought it like 6 months ago. And then we have the last 2 cards, which are both rarity upgrades of some of the most commonly played side deck cards of the last few formats, starting off with Dino Wrestler Pankratops, and oh my gosh, does this card look good. I'll throw a picture on the screen at the end of the video. I have these last 2 cards. I saw them in person at the WCQ, and they just look beautiful. They are gorgeous. So this card is extremely versatile. It's a 2600 monster that you can special summon for free basically whenever your opponent has more monsters than you control. It can attack over stuff, and then also you can send a Dino Wrestler also to the graveyard to pop a card on your opponent's field. This card is so darn good. It has seen so much play in side decks across a variety of different strategies and formats. This is the perfect candidate for a rarity upgrade in a set like this. I'm honestly surprised this card wasn't an ultimate rare in like an OTS pack, because it's just that good and it's likely going to see play for years to come. It seems very difficult for this card to be power crept. It's not quite on the same level as something like Twin Twisters, but it's really getting there, and we'll probably see this card played for years to come. So therefore it makes a lot of sense that this card finally got its first rarity upgrade. I still think that in a few years, if this card is seen play, it is a strong candidate for an ultimate rare, but for right now a secret rare will do. And then lastly, you guessed it, Artifact Lancia, the #1 by far most side decked card of the last couple formats. This card is a staple 3 of in every single side deck, no matter what strategy you're playing. And yes, it is finally getting that rarity upgrade. This card has been played on and off for years, and it's only been a common, and it always looks so silly in those max rarity deck lists that just have this one random 3 of common card. And now it is finally getting that secret rare foiling, and once again, just like the Donna Wrestler, these cards look incredible. They are insanely good, and I know in the picture that I'm going to show, they're sandwiched the prize card that's getting reprint. I know that prize card didn't make this list. I don't think people really care so much about Utopia Kaiser. Maybe I'm wrong. The card wasn't even that good before this reprint. Like, it saw a couple regional tops, but overall the card is like virtually unplayable with Link summoning, so I don't think people are really hyped for that reprint. I know it's a prize card, but still, the main focus that I think people are going to think of when they're thinking of Battles of Legend Heroes Revenge are the Dino Wrestler and Artifact Lancia. I cannot wait to pick up my copies. I am so excited. These are some of my favorite cards in Yu-Gi-Oh! Right now. I try to play them in virtually every deck that I have space for them in this side deck, and Artifact Lancia is only going to get better as time goes on and we get more and more banishing strategies. If you don't have Artifact Lancia, which I think is pretty wild, but if you don't have it, you definitely should pick it up. Maybe wait a few weeks for the secret rare reprint. I think a lot of people that even currently own Lancia are going to be looking to get that rarity upgrade because, oh my gosh, they just look so good. If you haven't seen them in person yet, you'll be really shocked when you do. They just look so slick, and it's a perfect rarity upgrade for a perfect card. Anyway though, hope you guys enjoyed today's discussion video on these top 10 Yu-Gi-Oh! Reprints and Battles of Legend Heroes Revenge. I'm going to do a couple more videos about the set, like I said, and like I said, if you want to buy cards from this set, which you most certainly will because it's an excellent set, please use my link in the description when you do that from tcgplayer.com. Like I said, it supports the channel and it's no cost to you guys. It really does help me out, so please click that link. I'd appreciate it a lot. But I'll see you guys later. Thank you so much for watching today's video. Goodbye.